I'm glad you're back. Before there were rules, there was relationship. And before there was behavior, there was connection. A light bulb can't generate heat. I'm sorry, well, it can't generate heat either by itself. A light bulb cannot generate light all by itself. And trying harder isn't going to make it work better. And behaving better isn't going to help any. There isn't any way that the light bulb can perform better. What the light bulb needs, the issue is connection. It needs connection to a source that it doesn't have within itself. And then when that source, when the light bulb is connected to the source, then power comes through. The light bulb takes that power and turns it into light. See, and that's kind of how it works with us. You've heard like this little light of mine, and sometimes we are talked about. Sometimes people talk about us as being to Jesus as like the moon is to the sun, where if the moon is up and the sun's shining on it, it will reflect the light of the sun, but it can't make its own light. So those are both really good metaphors for the paradigm that I would call the life versus knowledge paradigm that we'll talk about more in depth later. So I'm just kind of throw that out there. But the one way of living receives life from connection and relationship, and the other, and then broadcasts that, like in the case of a light bulb, in the form of light, and maybe in heat. If you have like an electric heat lamp or light lamp in the bathroom after a shower, or in a chicken brooder or something like that. And another way of living tries to take knowledge and make life from it. And we're going to talk more about that later, I promise. I just want to kind of introduce the idea. Maybe you've already heard that idea. If you have, that's okay. If you haven't, it'll give it some time to simmer and think on it before we get to talking about it in other ways that might feel weird if you haven't thought about it before. But I want to say that I'm not saying that knowledge is evil. It's not. It can be very necessary. Even like wiring a house requires knowledge, and building a bridge requires knowledge, and building buildings or an airplane or flying that airplane or whatever. All of those things require knowledge, but the end goal is not trying to create life from that knowledge. We're trying to use that knowledge to move some things forward. So it's easy to think that, like in our faith, all we need to do is read our Bible and study our Bible and study good books and all of those things, and that will create a better faith. But that's not where God says faith comes from. So I'm getting ahead of myself. But managing our behavior is exhausting, and it can feel really frustrating. And I want to kind of, let me see, do I want to do it here? No, well, it's going to save that for the next video. Come back to the next video. We're going to talk about when our abuser, I'm not sure if you're comfortable using that word in your situation yet, but when our difficult person, let's call it that, when our difficult person is making changes, but they don't feel right, this is going to help with some of that. But it's also going to help with why it's hard for us why everything feels heavy instead of light. Jesus said, my burden is light. And so when we are managing ourselves and trying to control our behavior ourselves, that can be exhausting, and that indicates that we're acting as our own source. We can ask ourselves the question, what do I rely on to feel okay or steady or safe or peaceful or calm? What do I rely on to have those feelings that things are right? And even if they're not right, that it's well with my soul. What if exhaustion isn't failure? What if it's a clue to what we are connected to? So I just want to leave that with you to think about, and I will be back in the next video to share some more, and we will move forward. If something kind of struck you and you want to share it in the comments, I'd love to read that. If you have a question that you'd like me to talk about in the next couple of videos, I would go ahead and leave that in the comments too. My name is Stephanie, and I help women who love Jesus find healing and freedom after the trauma of abuse or betrayal. I'm grateful that you joined me. Thank you for spending some of your time with me, and I will see you in the next video. I'll leave you with a little bit of my evening sky. God, I love the clouds like